Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Anyline, Anytime. My name is Mark Babin, and as always, it's a great pleasure to see so many of you joining us today for this episode on the talk about augmented reality and OCR technology, two superpowers of technology coming together to create some pretty cool opportunities and solutions. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Joining me is a good friend of Anyline, Paula, the head of marketing at Wikitude, a dynamic augmented reality technology company working to shape the future of how we consume information. Paula, thank you so much for joining me today. So great to finally have this discussion and see you in this virtual space.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mark. It's really a pleasure.
Great. So as I mentioned in the introduction, Wikitude and Anyline have been great friends for a number of years now. And I know speaking from our side, we're big fans of what you do. Obviously, just consuming the media you put out on social media and seeing some of the projects you're working on, it's extremely exciting, and we're really big fans of what you do. But for the audience, I would love to get a bit of an understanding on the role you play within augmented reality, as well as your personal involvement within the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So Wikitude is basically this underlying technology for some of the coolest AR projects that are in the market today. Our role is really to provide the core tech that brands, developers, enterprises can use as they want. So the SDK is fully customizable. It works across devices, across operating systems, and they can really solve this wide range of very complex AR problems using Wikitude. So that could look from having an augmented bottle that the story of the company pops up, all the way to recognizing machines on a factory floor, to augmented books for distance learning. So there's a wide variety there. And I've been in the company now for almost 7 years, but in the AR industry really for 10 years. And I can clearly remember the first time that I had AR in my hands. It was in London in 2010. And basically I remember feeling like I had the future on my fingertips. Back then it was location-based AR, so the underlying technology of Pokemon Go. And I was so fascinated that I ended up writing my master thesis about augmented reality. And 4 years later, met the folks at Wikitude. We really had a very nice conversation on the future of AR, and everything kind of aligned. And I feel super happy and humbled to be part of this whole AR journey. I've seen companies come up and down, and new trends and new technologies pop up. So I just feel really, happy to be part of all of this.
I love when that organic passion for something, that organic interest really translates into not only a career, but affecting the future of the actual technology itself. So that's really exciting to hear. You feel the same, I must imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really growing professionally with augmented reality and seeing all of these crazy things happen, from the magic leaps of, or like when Apple bought Monteiro, which was a big company back in 2014. Mm-hmm. I was in a boat in Greece when this happened. So, all of these different, happenings, but it's been really an exciting journey.
That just sounds good as it starts, but even in this past year, it sounds even better to find out something significant while on a boat in Greece. So that's amazing. I love it. So what about some of your use cases? I know that obviously we've spoken in the past about some of them, but for the audience, could you share a bit of maybe some of the exciting projects you're working on or some of the unique use cases just to help paint that picture a bit more of what you guys do?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So when we think about B2C, Jack Daniel's having those histories of bottle is a very strong use case. So the packaging industry really leverages AR for storytelling and customer engagement, going all the way to Caterpillar's remote assistance solution, where it helps workers just be more efficient, be more productive, and work safely on on the ground, all the way to smart shelving from Walmart, helping people know which products go where and understanding how the workflow runs in a retail store. So all of those are some of the most successful showcases. There's over 40,000 apps right now that use Wikitude. Wow. But I would have to say that my favorite one is NBC's Game of Games. So this was the big TV show of Ellen DeGeneres. And that was almost like the Pokemon Go of entertainment. Their big problem there was trying to go from old school text messages. When you're watching the program, you can text a specific number to interact. And they just wanted to add a more interactive layer there. And AR was the solution. So by scanning your TV, you could play the game along with Ellen and just be able to win prizes. We saw a crazy demand. We had almost 1 million people playing the games using AR.
Wow.
So, it's really fun to see what people create with the technology, really.
It's such a different technology as well that it's so shocking to see. I mean, I know the development is obviously years ahead of what the customer always sees, but it's just, you take, like you just mentioned, those use cases or Pokemon Go or any of these things that interacts with the large population, and people are just completely grasped by it that A, your phone can do that, and B, this is reality right now. It's so interesting and so cool.
Yeah, no, and who knows what the world will have in 2, 3, 5 years from now. We're going to be, seeing things in front of us with contact lenses that are using AR. Who knows? We'll see.
Well, I think you'll know first, so I'm going to try to get some of that out of you at the end of this. But I think you can give us a bit of a teaser on that. That's amazing. So super cool use cases and really brings it into perspective for myself and for the audience. So thank you so much for that. Now, knowing what you do with AR, as you just shared with us, and what we can do with OCR and mobile data capture, obviously we've spoken at length of the potential when our two technologies come together, leaning on one of each other for our specialities and really creating unique opportunities for companies. Now, what really gets me excited is the true impact that marriage of technologies can really have on the world. I mean, we're talking about some serious game-changing technology here, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure. I think that AR and OCR is really one of those powerful combos in a company's technology stack. You have on the one hand side, OCR really helping workers identify things very quickly, speeding up the processes and just making work more efficient. And on the other hand, you have AR helping on the visualization side of things. So making content super easy to digest, coming at the time that people need, and really just having this extra layer of either entertainment or education, whatever the need is. So thinking how these two technologies are being used and will be used, we can expect logistics and healthcare, retail, automotive, all of these sectors will be completely transformed by the power of these two technologies, really.
Yeah, so you mentioned a few of them there, the industries, retail and logistics, supply chain, these kind of industries can see a big impact. But I'd really like to, from your experience, I guess when we really think of putting these two technologies together, should those be the only main industries that should take note, or are there really an endless amount? Which ones would you say, listening today, should really take note of combining these two technologies or looking at the option?
No, I think these two technologies can be combined in such a wide variety of industries. But one that we already see the benefits today is really just looking at logistics. And if you look at a warehouse, the goal there is to make things function very smoothly, ensure that all of the tests are being carried very quickly, and also at a minimum cost or the minimum cost possible. So when you think that OCR can just help a worker on a warehouse to identify, for example, packages very efficiently, especially if you have smart glasses on. AR can give the next steps of where this package should go, giving all of the necessary instructions and looking, what is the next text to be completed. This dramatically reduces the human error factor there, and also just give this knowledge transfer, this kind of almost engaging layer for the worker to make things more efficient. But there's several other industries that we can also see there. We see Porsche Leipzig using the recognition of license plates.
Yes.
So for the police to see what's going on there, but also on the visitor in the museum side of things, identifying when was this license plate and who was driving this specific car, and just really telling the story of what was happening in that vehicle. So there's a wide variety of industries, I would say.
I love that balance between the efficiency and the optimization that our technology brings, and the user experience, and the just how easy it can be to onboard people or to provide further instruction or anything like that. It's that's the two areas that any industry that needs that combined, like you said, stocking a shelf, using our technology to identify the object, whether it's through a serial number or barcode or what have you, and then having your technology provide the steps in order to do it at its most efficient way. So it's really enhancing the user experience and the efficiency factor. And that's just from a workforce point of view, but looking at customers or the general public, it really shows, I think, some cool options in the future of what can be done, self-shopping in retail, for example, to really provide that type of experience. I can already sort of see in my head like an option where that would be really, really cool in the retail space. But yeah, I think it touches everything, like you said, anything that really involves a customer having to engage with a business in some capacity, right?
Yeah, exactly. It will be on our everyday in some way or another. I mean, Tim Cook is betting on these both technologies for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. This will be something that I don't know, 5 years, 10 years will be so common. It'll look back to obviously this type of conversation and it'll seem so historic that it was, oh, what do you mean we didn't have that back then? I think it will be one of those technologies, and I think you would certainly agree.
For sure. Yeah. We will look back and we will see, oh, wow, we had a long way until there.
Yeah.
Just thinking that, I joined AR before the whole Pokemon hype and what has become after that. So it will be very interesting to see, looking in retrospective, what has happened.
Yeah. And I think once as well, like we see this with our technology, and I know you would see the same, but once people get used to that upgraded efficiency or that upgraded user experience, to go backwards is almost impossible.
Yeah. It's really a one-way street, and there's only great things to happen. So looking at the reports, we see Digit Capital and IDC, all of those efficiency improvements, diminishing errors on the front line. So we see that there's not just hey, this is a very nice to have thing, but this will switch to, we are going to need this technology to make people more engaged, to, work faster. It will go from a nice to have from okay, we got to have this.
Yeah, that's a great transition. Like looking at it from that point of view, where it is a nice to have feature, to the point where it becomes a necessity for various industries. I think some industries will get it first as a serious need. We're maybe even seeing that now as some get into it. But when do you really see, for the majority of the industries, this becoming a serious demand, like a demand from the consumer, a demand from the workforce, and therefore generating a massive need? How far ahead do you think we're looking for that?
Yeah, we see very strongly the enterprise space moving first with some proof of concepts. And I have to say that 2020 was a very hard year, but this was also a completely game-changing year for us, that we started, discussing with companies, okay, how can you actually make things run as smoothly as possible in a pandemic context. So this is where I see that this technology is going to be a must-have for the stack that these enterprises are having. And we can begin from like, hey, we see a strong demand that people are not able to have a specialist on site. How can we recognize a specific machine and ensure that it's running smoothly? But when we have a problem, how can we get this connection with the specialist and get the problem solved? And this is where the potential of OCR and AR is really shining through today. But I think that 2020, 2021 were these kind of phases where you already have some proof of concepts deployed. In the next 2 to 3 years, we will see some incredible success stories in the market. I can already tell you that from a success story perspective, we have British Petroleum today.
Oh, wow.
And what they do is really amazing, and they do use a combination of OCR and AR. And the whole challenge there was, hey, we have 6,000 aircrafts out there, and we need to ensure that the ground crew is putting the right fuel, right? So how can we ensure that this is going smoothly in a very fast pace? So what they did was they have these decals on the aircrafts, and they introduced this layer of confidence, really, that, okay, the worker is putting the right amount of fuel and the right type of fuel. We know that it doesn't happen very often, but putting the wrong fuel in an aircraft could have very
Serious
problematic
consequences,
and damaging the machine. So these are the kind of success stories that have been worked on the past year that are now in the market. But in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see more and more success stories like that.
I love that you mentioned the COVID period affecting things significantly. I know we've talked at almost too much about the past year, but it's so significant in so many different ways. I know we were speaking with a few other people, and I'd love your input on this as well from your side of things. But perhaps there were set to be a list of changes in the industries, in various industries, over, say, the next 5 to 10 years at the end of 2019 is what they were kind of projecting.
Right.
But because of this last year, that time got shrunk to a year. So the same transitions were happening. We're seeing the same things happen that were predicted, but instead of happening 5 to 10 years from now, they've happened this year or 2020, 2021. Is that the same kind of thing you're seeing then?
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes from a context of schools to enterprise. It really accelerated and really put to test companies and schools and brands' capacity to adapt quickly and just be in connection with the worker or the consumer in different places. I think it was a very impactful year, but it also brought a lot of new innovation and a lot of reflection that will transform how we do things in the next year, really.
Yeah, a lot of companies have had to make a significant pivot, and that pivot has really opened the door to new innovation and new solutions being needed. I know that's what we're seeing with a lot of our partners. You too, the same, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. So we start just having these discussions that I think prior to COVID, as you mentioned, it would have taken a few more years that we have this discussion, but they're rather happening now, and there are proof of concepts happening now. And I think it's also the ecosystem evolving in a very interesting way. We have hardware catching up very strongly. We have software that is already very robust and can do a wide variety of things, either if you have smart glasses or just a phone or a tablet in your hands. And then we have a community that is growing so quickly and just sharing knowledge in the space and understanding what can be done with AR and with OCR, and how to put that really in use cases that add value, that makes sense, and that really brings the technology from, as we said, this okay, we got to have this in order to make things more productive, more efficient, more engaging, and so on.
Yeah, no longer this would be nice to have in a number of years. We need to look at this today. I think that's what we're seeing very often. And we keep telling everyone as well, and this applies very well to you, but the power of these devices in our pockets is mind-blowing. Like, they are wasted watching Netflix and YouTube and TikTok and all these things. Like, it's fun, but these devices are so powerful. And when the right technology is put into them, like we're talking with AR is a great example. OCR is another great example. But to put these types of technologies in a device turns that device into something so much more, just like the human brain, like we only use a certain percent. The majority of people in the world are using such a small fraction of their device.
Yeah,
potential.
You're absolutely right.
It's amazing to think. And I know that just watching some of the stuff your technology does and thinking about, the potential of our stuff coming together more often, it truly unlocks like a hidden element to these devices.
Yeah, smartphones are supercomputers. And, you mentioned TikTok. Even TikTok is going now for having AR interactive layers there with Lego. Just this week, the news launched. But yeah, they are supercomputers. And computer vision is usually a very heavy task. But having the correct software, you can make this super accessible and not heavy on a device as much as you would expect it to be. So our phones can handle it. And, the more the head-worn hardware will evolve, we're going to be able to make such incredible things 100% hands-free.
That's definitely the next step of it, is taking that technology and putting it into more of a everyday, every minute of our lives kind of a thing, like you mentioned with the headsets. No, that's amazing. Listen, I think this has been fantastic. I'm beyond excited for what the future holds, especially as our technology evolves in our capacity, yours evolves in your capacity. And of course, we'll come together with the projects that need it. And as I mentioned, ones that can truly have a profound impact within organizations and within the world, truly. So it's exciting. Again, thank you so much for joining us today to discuss this. Super relatable, I think, for many people listening. So yeah, I guess before we sign off, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, it was really a pleasure. And I see Anyline and Wikitude continuing to do really great things in the future. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what kind of crazy, sophisticated, complex solutions we're going to see that will just make our lives easier and better in the future.
Yeah, which complex solutions can we make more mainstream? I love it.
Exactly.
One day. Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And to everyone watching, thank you so much for sticking with this episode. It's been super fascinating just to see how much technology is coming in the next few years, how much is currently being worked on now within the AR and the OCR and the AI spaces. So plenty to look forward to. Again, thank you for sticking with us. If you have any questions about this episode, please feel free to find myself or Paula on LinkedIn. We'll make sure those links are available on the video description. And also you can just drop a comment below this video and we'll get to those answers right away for you. So again, thank you so much for watching. Until the next episode, as always, stay happy, stay healthy. We'll see you next time.